Morning, Dan and Amy. That music means it's time for Steve Moore, Chief Economist of the Heritage Foundation and Trump Economic Policy Advisor. But before we get to Steve, I've got to take up this piece by Norm Ornstein in the Washington Post. Norm Ornstein is a scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, and he's one of these kind of self-styled Republicans, conservatives even.
Is he a never-Trumper?
No, I don't know if he is or not, but he's a sentinel for the left. He's like, one of these kind of Republicans that the left loves to embrace, like David Brooks. And this piece is emblematic of the problem within the Republican ranks. This is emblematic of a failed philosophy. I want to get Moore's reaction to this. I saw Norm Ornstein speak when I went to the U.S. Army War College several years ago, and his speech was very much like this piece, which is entitled "Memo to GOP: Forget Your Obstructionist Policies, They Backfired." The problem, according to Norm Ornstein, is too much Republican opposition to the Obama policy agenda, not too little. And this is a real divide in the party, the kind of the good governance. And this is why the right is always advancing the interests of the left, like that Flight 93 election piece that I mentioned before. The right doesn't dream up the inanities, they just ratify them. Here's what Norm Ornstein writes in part. The Affordable Care Act needs the technical corrections that every other major social policy received after its passage, and some adjustments, including conservative and market-driven ones, to make it work better, making socialism work better. That's the philosophy of the Norm Ornstein self-styled Republican. And he goes down the list of, infrastructure and the electrical grid and immigration and prison reform. We need serious solutions to all of these problems, and we do. But we don't get those serious solutions by advancing the policy regime of the left, which is what Norm Ornstein suggests. And I just wanted to distinguish, because the American Enterprise Institute is a respected free market think tank, and I guess Norm Ornstein exists there based on inertia, because it's certainly not on quality of work. Steve Moore, thanks for joining us. With respect to Norm Ornstein and, the problem with the GOP, congressional GOP, too obstructionist, what's your take?
Well, I've known Norm Ornstein for 25 years, and he is, if you look up in the dictionary, political insider, it's Norm Ornstein. I mean, he is the classic. He wrote a book with a scholar from the Brookings Institute about 3 or 4 years ago saying, Washington has become way, way, way too partisan.
Yep.
And it's all the Republicans' fault. But look, the idea that Republicans have caved in too much to Obama's agenda is preposterous. I mean, look, we've had $9 trillion of additional debt. We have 42 million people on food stamps. The deficit this year is $600 billion going to $1 trillion. And the idea that somehow you can take the Titanic, which is the Obamacare law, and just tweak it here and there, and it's just going to float on forever, is crazy. The thing is coming apart at the seams. It needs not a Band-Aid. It needs radical. You need to sink that ship and start over again. And I live in Virginia, where our premiums are going up 20 to 30% this year. That's unbelievable. I mean, people are going to go bankrupt because of Obamacare.
Well, speaking of Obamacare, Trump laid out his plan for the first 100 days in office yesterday. Of course, repealing Obamacare, building a wall. I don't know. I mean, he can get started on that, but he can't build it in 100 days. And he also wants to give generals 30 days to come up with a plan to defeat ISIS. And that's different from what we've been hearing from Trump all along, because he always said that he had a secret plan to defeat ISIS. So which one is it?
Well, look, I don't work with Donald Trump on foreign policy issues like ISIS, but let me just say this on the first 100-day plan, because this is something I've really urged on the campaign, that there are so many. Look, we've had Barack Obama in the White House for 8 years, and there are so much low-hanging fruit out there on the economy that we could do right out of the gate. For example, there's a little thing like building the Keystone Pipeline, which any sane person would agree that we need those 5,000 to 10,000 jobs. We need the pipelines to get our oil and gas to the markets. Another example is, one of the things I've told him, and he's agreed to this, is on the first day in office, Donald Trump is going to sign an executive order to overturn these so-called clean power plant rules. That if we overturn that, we're going to put 50,000 coal miners back in their jobs. So a lot of people ask, gee, does it really matter who wins this election? It's Tweedledee and Tweedledum. No. we have a very specific agenda to reverse a lot of the things. This is why Norm Ornstein gets it completely wrong, guys. It's not that we have to agree to all the things that Obama wants to do. We have to reverse them. We have to reverse Obamacare. We have to repeal it. We have to get rid of it. We have to reverse this tide of debt, which did you see last week? They say it's now going to the deficit's going to go to $1 trillion a year within 2 or 3 years, and we just can't afford this anymore.
And is central to your idea for an economic renaissance in Illinois and the nation
You
is
need one there too.
well, exactly. So I'm focused on where I live, but central to the national renaissance is the energy sector and unleashing the energy sector, not because it creates both C-suite white-collar jobs as well as so-called blue-collar jobs that pay very well in the field.
Well, I just wrote a piece. So funny you should ask, because I just wrote a piece that'll hopefully be running in the Wall Street Journal in the next few days, saying that, look, if we were just an all-in energy policy, and that is use our oil, use our gas, use our coal, use our nuclear power, those are the 4 sources where we get 90% of our energy. I'm not talking about building windmills. I'm talking about using where we get our energy from. We could, within 4 or 5 years, become energy independent and the energy dominant country in the world. We could be the Saudi Arabia of the 21st century. And all we need to do, for the most part, is get the government out of the way. We do need to build, when people talk about infrastructure, Hillary does. Hillary, yes, we need infrastructure. We need pipelines so we can get the oil and gas to the markets we need. We need LNG terminals so we can start exporting our natural gas to Europe and Asia. We need to have refineries. Do you know, guys, we haven't built a refinery in this country in 30 years.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know
It's ridiculous. I mean, the environmentalists won't allow it. That's one of the reasons we have to import so much oil, because we can't refine the oil we have here in the United States. I mean, you do all these things. I estimate in this piece we could raise for the government, because so much of this oil and gas is under federal lands, the federal government could lease it and charge royalties to the energy companies. We could raise about $3 trillion. $3 trillion in the next 20 to 25 years. We could use that for infrastructure, environmental protection, reducing our debt.
And in addition to that,
argument against it.
And in addition,
one good argument against it.
In addition to that, and why this could be a relevant topic tonight when Trump and Hillary are interviewed by Matt Lauer, kind of the national security menu of issues.
By the way, how's that going to work? They're not going to be on the stage together.
No, it's one after the other. So
and then people in the audience ask questions.
Okay, you got me. Let me just interject something here. Why do the Republicans always do this? Matt Lauer is a liberal. He is a liberal. He's not for Donald Trump. His questions to Donald Trump are going to be gotcha questions. I am so sick of the Republicans agreeing to these, quote, debates where the liberals get to choose who the moderators are. Didn't Republicans learn anything from the Obama Romney debate last time, where Romney won?
Right.
I mean, Romney lost.
But there's going to be members of the military in the office, in the audience, Stephen, members of the military, active military, that are going to be asking questions as well.
Well, and hopefully we have a nominee who could handle the likes of a Candy Crowley, unlike that we did or a Matt Lauer, unlike in 2012.
That should be an important qualification.
Yeah, I would say, but just in terms of energy and tonight's conversation with Trump and with Hillary, energy policy and what you're talking about domestically as the means to advance our national security interests as well, because, of course, we're less energy dependent. So it's a national security issue in addition to an economic one.
Yes, absolutely. And, we're talking, let me put this very simply, because this isn't complicated, folks. Every time we're able to drill for a barrel of oil here in the United States, whether it's Texas or Alaska or North Dakota or Oklahoma or West Virginia, every barrel we drill here is one less barrel of oil we have to get from places like Iran or Saudi Arabia or Venezuela or these other OPEC countries that then send that. Look, we know what happens to that money when we buy that oil from them. They give some of that money to the very terrorists, the ISIS networks that tried to kill us. So yeah, we can put the terrorists financially out of business by simply developing our own energy. This is why I keep saying this is a no-brainer issue. It's good for our security. It's good for jobs. It will reduce our trade deficit. It will reduce our budget deficit. It will help us build infrastructure. My God, I think we could add another percentage point of growth just by producing American energy. And Obama used to say, oh, we can't do this. We're running out of oil and gas. We're not running out of everything. We have so much oil and gas in this country. And coal, my God, we have 500 years worth of coal. Why aren't we using it?
All right. I hope Donald Trump cuts and pastes the answer we just heard from Stephen Moore tonight. Stephen Moore, Chief Economist of the Harris Foundation, Trump Economic Policy Advisor. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
All right. See you guys. Have a great week.
You too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.